Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Kia ora team, and welcome back to TAB's Pick and Go Rugby podcast. My name is Karl Paul, joined in studio as always by my good mate Paul Mawate down the end there. Paul, how you going, mate? How was your week?
Punting wise, terrible.
But
there was some great rugby to be had. So yeah, that made up for it.
There was, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see we've got a guest live in the studio. He is one of SENZ's World Cup commentators and one of the voices of sport in New Zealand. It is the great Daniel McHardy.
Oh, the
Daniel,
great.
How you going?
I like the sound of that, fellas. Come in.
Yeah.
Give me a cut on. That's
Yeah,
a wonderful introduction. That is. It is wonderful to be here amongst such esteemed company. I think we made a pretty fearsome front row, don't we? Bit light.
Very light.
Hooker aside, of course. But no, great to be here.
Now, what we lack in weight, we make up for in skill. Yeah, it's all about technique.
It's all that skill set.
Yeah.
Technique that I've got nothing on.
It's a journey.
It is. All right, we're going to make this one short and sharp. We're going to get straight into it, guys. I've given you a run sheet, a little bit of homework. I've got a predicament straight off the top for you. If you're a hardcore rugby fan, you know, one of those guys that like to watch every single game of code, any team, doesn't matter who's playing. As a fan like this, which stage of the World Cup would you rather your team lose or be knocked out from the competition? Not making it through pool play? Quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. Daniel, I'll start with you.
Oh, great. Thanks for that. What a loaded, mean question first up. You know, so there's no outcome when my team actually wins here.
No,
It's all about clickbait.
there's no good news.
Yeah, well, like a typical New Zealand rugby fan, I would take any stage exit poorly, wouldn't I? That's just what we do here. We expect to win, so all of those options suck. But I think a lot of them depend on who you are. Like, for example, if you asked Australia prior to this tournament, if you got eliminated at pool play, what would happen? Well, what is happening in Australia? It seems like it's gone boom, isn't it? It's been quite combustible now that they're facing a group stage exit. If you asked Ireland, they would dread another quarterfinal exit, wouldn't they? They'd absolutely hate that. I think they would actually see it as kind of a victory, only a little bit of a victory getting through to the semi-finals. Semi-finals, no one likes losing a semi-final. That's even worse than getting knocked out at pool play to get that close. If you ask French fans, they'd hate to lose another final, especially at home. I'm probably going to go the semi-final though. At least you get to the big dance. At least your team's there to the bitter end.
Yeah.
So of those options, which all suck, my friend, I'm going to go losing the final.
Very much so.
It's funny. I had a quick look at a couple of different teams, and as you say, Ireland never made it past the quarterfinals, so their fans will be sort of accustomed to a quarterfinal exit, I suppose.
Didn't they even lose a quarterfinal playoff?
Yes.
In 1999?
Yeah.
Remember the good old days?
Yes, exactly.
The French have never not made it to the quarterfinals.
Yes.
Australia never not made it to the quarterfinals until now.
Well, hold on a minute.
Mathematically.
Yes.
Mathematical
Yeah.
Please, if you think they're sticking around.
I'm
yourself.
just saying.
South Africa have
Who thought SJ wasn't going to win the Dally M? Well, there you go.
True.
Things happen.
different podcast. South Africa never not made quarterfinals. South Africa have won 3 of their 7 tournaments and been in the semi-finals 5 of 7. Pretty impressive stuff from them. Paul, your answer to the question, please.
Well, if you're an All Blacks fan, I've still got scar tissue from the 95 final. So although I want the All Blacks to go as far as they can, that still brings back very, very bad memories. That
was worse too, because there's extra time.
Win that though.
Extra time.
We were never going to win that.
I mean, Hollywood had the movie all ready to go.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela, South Africa in their first World Cup at home.
Yeah.
It was all there. Susie, don't mention her. But it was just horrible.
I remember speaking to Graham Moody, the late great former radio broadcaster, called it, and he said the moment he saw Nelson Mandela turn up in 1995,
it was all over.
That's not going to happen today. 99's the worst. It's far worse for me.
I remember watching that. We were talking about this the other day. I was still at intermediate, and we had the TV wheeled into class, and we must have watched the replay because it must have been, I can't remember, like whatever, but I remember crying at school after that. That was tough.
It was tough, wasn't it?
Was that Jonah?
Yeah, Jonah.
Oh, when he got the knee, who was the
No, he
English?
steamrolled France, but single-handedly. Where Jonah in his pomp had a huge halftime lead, and then Bernard Saal,
France win by 12 exactly.
Yeah,
yes, one of the greatest bets in TAB history. A punter was, I think he was sent out to get takeaways and a lotto, and he decided to pop into the TAB instead. And he thought, I'm going to look for option 12, selection 12, and I'm going to put the however much on. And option 12 was the exact winning margin in the French All Black game. And selection 12 was France to win by 12.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he put he won a few bob off that. The wife wasn't happy when he got home with the TAB ticket. She was a bit happier the next day after the game.
That's great, yeah.
So your final, you don't want to lose the final. You'd rather,
it's
drop out before then?
Semi-final for mine. Yeah, semi-final. Yeah, ask the Aussies how they feel about getting knocked out in ball play. Wow. Yeah. They say you have to hit rock bottom before you can start rising again. I think the Aussies may have hit rock bottom this tournament.
Then you've got to watch your team play the third and fourth playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
ugly, isn't it?
That was New Zealand last time out, and they dealt to the Welsh.
Not that I remember any of that game.
It was horrible. No, yeah, semi-final.
But that is quite a predicament, my friend.
It is.
It's the best of a bad bunch.
All right. Next one. Sticking with New Zealand, a bit of a round table here. Are the All Blacks one of the most feared teams in sporting history? Are they dead and gone? Or is their aura gone? And how do they get it back? And the reason I ask this, I've heard a lot of people in recent weeks, sort of typical AB's fans, suggesting that Italy are a chance this week of tipping up the All Blacks. In my opinion, absolutely no chance of this happening. I think this is more sort of manifested from people's hatred towards Ian Foster. And in turn, they're wanting the All Blacks to fail. So Foster's gone. He's gone anyway. But in your guys' opinion, have the All Blacks lost their aura? Or is this just a temporary speed? I don't like the word speed bump, but a temporary piece. When Robertson comes in next year, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
are we going to be back?
I do. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to, throw that hand grenade to me first?
You go for it.
Okay, I'll go for it first. Without being too glib about it, I think it depends on who they're playing. In a lot of ways. Italy's a prime example here. What I know about Italy, yes, they are slowly turning a corner. They were far more competitive in the Six Nations this year. They lost to France by 5 points, England by 17, the others around 14, 12 points. I think on average, those losses were about 12 points a game. So, yes, they are more competitive. They're not beating the All Blacks, though. I've already promised on SENZ that I will eat my hat and someone can put whatever flavour of sauce on top of it. I just don't see it happening. They'll be competitive for a while. I expect the All Blacks to go through. And I think there is still an aura hanging around the All Blacks if you're an Italian rugby player. You side's never beaten them. There was clearly an aura around the All Blacks for Namibia, the way they spoke about them in glowing terms. Now, if you asked Ireland, their fan base, their players have Paul Neal, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think 5 of the last 8 test matches, I think Ireland had beaten the All Blacks. That fear factor is gone for them. But you've got to do it before the fear factor is completely gone. The All Blacks history doesn't go away overnight. The extraordinary win rate. And we have been coloured, maybe the modern day thinking, contemporary thinking has been coloured by that run from 2009 through to about 2018 when they were extraordinary. You win a World Cup in 2011. Generally, there's a rebuild, right? The All Blacks bring in Aaron Smith, Bowden Barrett, Dane Coles, Brodie Retallick, all make their debuts in 2012.
Some of the greatest of all time.
Yes. Yeah. So we've come from these dizzying heights, remarkable heights. And I understand why people are grumpy. A lot of the results have not been acceptable. But I think to answer your question, are they still feared? I think there is still an aura, but the numbers are dwindling as far as nations that still hold them in that at that level. Scotland, I'd put in that mix, but definitely for South Africa, Ireland. I'd even throw England into that mix.
Yep.
But, they probably don't have the fear factor of previous tournaments.
No, it takes, and as Daniel said, that was a golden period there, but it takes 100+ years of results to build up that aura and that fear factor in opposition teams. It doesn't take as long for that to start to diminish.
Yeah.
So in terms of most world teams, I think they still do fear the All Blacks, but you can point out the likes of the Irish, who won their first series in New Zealand not too long ago. The Poms, who have had very, very good results against the All Blacks over the last 5 or so years. The French, the problem with the French is we've already seen that in this tournament, they can be absolute world beaters one day, and then, to be fair, I don't think they have the depth after their starting 15 and their reserves. Once they start putting some of their second stringers on, they don't look as dominant or as crisp as their top side. But the All Blacks are still feared by most countries. They are. But yes, that is diminishing just off the results that we've had over the last few years. But that can start to rebuild again, either at this tournament by going all the way, or by Robertson coming in and then starting to build a new culture. And we'll see how things go in the international sort of side of things from there.
I think we can also flip it, can't you? Rather than what do teams think about the All Blacks, is what do those teams think about themselves and their ability to win 3 big games in a row? Maybe this is a manifest in my own mind that I've created this, but I think there will be doubts in Ireland. Can we do it? We haven't done it before.
Yeah. France
will feel the pressure of a nation. I remember vividly during that game, I think you're referring to, against Uruguay. I was in the fan zone in Toulouse. What an amazing city that is, as an aside. And this French guy just turned around to me at halftime, looked me dead in the eye, and just said, "We are France. This is what we do. We feel the pressure." So when the fans flip-flop as quickly as they do, the atmosphere inside Stade de France last couple of years has been extraordinary because they're winning. But I also remember being at Stade de France when they got whistled off the field in 2005. So, I think, a lot of self-belief is really important for nations like France. Do they actually believe that they can win 3 big games?
Interesting. You could almost ask the same question for around the aura, Southern Hemisphere rugby in general. I saw a stat yesterday. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but something like the 40% of all Southern Hemisphere losses in Rugby World Cup have happened in the last 6 days or something, or 8 days, which is wild.
Well, the gap's closed,
absolutely
right?
wild.
Yeah. 2015, every nation that was out of the Southern Hemisphere made the Final Four.
Yes.
Wales, England, 4 years ago. It's closing. They're going past us. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
South Africa have had to think on their feet, allow players to play elsewhere. They're now got a touchstone into Europe in their club competition. They have the best of both worlds, South Africa, don't they? They get to then play international rugby against us. And now here in New Zealand, what are we? We're just tied to a high performance Australia and South Africa. I think we're missing them in Super Rugby. I really do.
Yeah.
And Australia is an obvious problem, not just for us, but more so for Australia.
Interesting debate. That's why we've got to ask the tough questions. All right, let's go through some results from last week. Argentina 19, Samoa 10. Samoa's never really in it, score-wise. And I saw the headline was Argentina breaks Samoa's heart. I'm not sure that's quite accurate. It's probably more Samoans break punters' hearts with a try late to bring it back to 12 points within the 1-12 margin. Your thoughts on this one, Daniel?
Well, I knew Argentina couldn't be as abject as they were against England in the first game. They were so off the pace. It was such a disappointing display from them. But I did have high hopes for Manu Samoa, who I find a great sort of illustration of the poor stewardship of world rugby. You look at what they did in 91, 95, 99, 2003. People forget they were leading England, 10, 15 minutes to go in a group game. But the malaise of Samoan rugby, the fact I think 4 nations have played in Samoa since 2015.
Yeah.
We're not doing enough for them. And the problem for nations like Manu Samoa is lack of time together. And you've got to hurriedly get a campaign up and running in a few months. And credit Argentina, they started well. They score an early try. They continue to apply scoreboard pressure. They dominate possession and territory. Buffelli kicks all the goals. Yeah, I know Malolo scores with 5 minutes to go to give them a bit of a sniff, but that really was it. And I look at Samoa, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later when we're talking about the Japan game that's next on the horizon. They look quite limited in the way they play. It's not as free flowing as I've come to expect over the years. It's a little bit more narrow and a little bit more, straight up and down. So yeah, Argentina did what they needed to, but still reasonably convincing, I would have thought, Paul.
They were. I think the Samoans, they're sort of caught in no man's land at the moment. We've seen them with their flair in World Cups gone by, and they've sort of tried to become slightly more structured, and they're not really structured, but they're not really flary anymore. They're in the middle somewhere, and it doesn't work for them. The fact that they get very little international competition and they are hardly ever together as a team is another factor which Daniel brought up. But Argentina, who were very, very poor against the Poms, I thought they let their emotions get away with them in that first game. I mean, once the flanker went off England, almost right from the start, they should have dominated then. Got down, get their position, pick up points, and just grind away and take the game away from England. And they were, I don't know, they just weren't set for that game. They let their hearts get away, I think, and instead of using their heads, they missed one there. They looked a bit better against Samoa, but they still haven't. They did enough to win, but they're not going to go very, very far in this tournament if that's their level of play.
That's fair. Lots of cards in that game against England, you're right, and none to Levanini. I'm staggered. I'd hate to think what the odds on that one were. Levanini not picking up a card.
There's going to be multiple cards, and he won't get one.
I think look out for Samoa next World Cup. If they've still got a few players running around for Moana Pacifica in Super Rugby, be a development a bit like the Fijians, a bit like Japan 2019 as we saw. So,
well, we see what Super Rugby can do for Pacific nations and Japan.
Yep.
Japan not in it. The Samoa's not there anymore. I think we're seeing Japan sort of recede slightly, regress. But the Fijians with the Drua, geez, they look really, really good. And now they've got that right mix where set piece, they're very, very good now, but they haven't lost that sort of flair. They haven't lost that willingness to give the ball a wee bit of air. So it's worked really well for them. It'd be great if we saw maybe even a Samoan team in the Super Rugby. Maybe kick one of the Aussies out. Because boy, oh boy, it doesn't look like they'll be able to fill all their teams with players of the quality that we need. So,
and not playing at Mount Smart Stadium.
Yes.
You're saying, yeah.
There should be. That should be their home ground over in Suva. Apia.
Careful.
Sorry. Sorry, Samoan fan. But yes, they should have home games in Samoa, just like the Drew have had home games in Fiji.
Yep.
And it's just a win-win situation because it brings the level of world rugby up as well, and that's what we want.
It is. Paul, your Georgians 18, Portugal 18.
I'm a Georgian fan too.
Oh, how good
We're
are
just
they?
backs anyway.
Oh, this is amazing. I love my awesome Georgians.
They were, and
Both kickers essentially missed the kick to win it.
Yeah.
At the death.
Yeah,
the Portugal
the conversion
and the penalty,
and then the penalty from the kickoff.
It was a terrible kick.
You feel for them.
You got to kick those.
Yeah, so 18-all, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now a lot of maybe the uninitiated are thinking, well, that should be an absolute walkover for Georgia. I know Georgia finished top of the European qualification, but if you actually look at those results, there was one team that actually did annoy them the most, and funnily enough, it was Portugal. Pushed them hard. One was a draw, oddly enough, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. A little bit surprised they didn't, win that game.
Especially after the start they got away to.
Yeah, big lead, and they coughed that up in the second half. So I don't think we should be all that shocked. Maybe Portugal have pushed them, but I still view that as a really deflating loss for Georgia. They've been threatening, and people like yourself and me have been talking them up over now 10 on years about them making that next step. We've talked about I'm sure you guys have, about promotion relegation in the Six Nations. Do Italy belong in the Six Nations if they're going to win one of 41 games, I think it is, dating back to 2015. But Georgia don't look as sharp as previous iterations. So, but I wouldn't discount them, especially with a pretty important game looming on the horizon for them, which we'll touch on later.
Our mate Steve Devine texted me the other day and he said it's starting to look like Australia beating Georgia is the biggest upset in this World Cup.
I like that. I didn't mind that the Portuguese right winger, Stordy, scored their 2 tries. He looked very, very good.
Yeah. Next one, England 71, Chile 0. I did not watch this game, have not watched the highlights, so I cannot comment.
Chile have done what they've done in the other games. They actually start quite brightly. They look quite enterprising. I think I've used that word way too much in describing them over the last couple of weeks. What I'm trying to say there, people, as I look straight down the camera, I think they try to play the game the right way. I think they try to use the ball, the right way in our view of the rugby world. I think they're trying to use the ball, but clearly proofs in the pudding as far as results. So England, I think, are just flying perfectly under the radar of this tournament, Paul. Really good result against Argentina, down to 14 men. George Ford pulling the strings without Owen Farrell, winning that game comfortably by 17 points. Japan are a decent side. England didn't really have too many gloves laid on them, 34 points to 10. And now, kicked away from Chile, 71 points to 0. Prior to this tournament, we were so down on England because of results. But every time I looked at the team list, I was like, that's actually the makings of a good side. And I caught up with Brad Shields, a former English international, just this week on SENZ, and he agreed with me. He's like, yep, you look at that squad, there's a lot of talent left over from the 2019 squad who made it all the way to the semi-final. So they were probably a team who had a lot of air to put into the balloon, potentially to put into the balloon, and I'm seeing that from England.
And they might just be getting warm just at the right time. And a fairly favourable draw. So...
Wow.
It's not nothing clear about it.
In all likelihood, they're going to face Fiji in a quarterfinal.
How good's that going to be?
Of whom beat them last time they played, which was wild.
In front of 40,000 Fijian fans in Twickenham.
Yeah.
One of the greatest sides I've seen in rugby in years.
I quickly asked you a question that I asked Steve Devine last week, Daniel, and he dismissed it very abruptly.
Well, was it a positive question about Australia?
No,
because I know Steve flicks that quicker away than he used to.
It was about England, so similar.
Yeah.
But I said, does Owen Farrell get the number 10 jersey back? Does he get the number 10 jersey when he comes back because of how good George Ford has been playing?
Well, he gets the 10 or 12.
Yeah.
He's going to play. But, Ford's done everything you would want if you're a coach to give you lots to ponder. Question is, can Owen Farrell get through the rest of the tournament, navigating his way through a contest tackling? I will find out how robust and how successful tackle school is.
Exactly.
That World Rugby is putting these guys through. But no, I'm a little bit higher on England than I sense from a lot of New Zealand fans.
Yep.
Well, just out of that game, obviously, Arundel, 5 tries. He goes straight to the top of the tournament try scorer. Book, and I'll just take you through some of the bets that we've had in that tournament top try scorer book. We had a $1,300 bet on Damien Pinard at $5.50, $1,000 on Lester Whanganuku at $12, and $900 on Bundy Aki at $10, 640 on Will Jordan, yet to cross the line at $7. And $233 on Mark Nawakatin. Crikey. Nawakani Mark, the Aussie winger.
The Aussie right winger.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, at $15. So
what are the odds of the Englishman staying top of the charts? Because there is precedent, right? Mark Ellis. 1995, 7 tries
against Japan.
Yeah, he got 6 against Japan. Boo got another. Everyone remembers Jonah's tournament, but Mark Ellis finished with as many tries as him in 1995.
Well, Henry is currently $8 second favourite to finish the tournament top try scorer.
No one's scored more than 8 in the tournament for a tournament top try scorer. All right, next one. South Africa 8, Ireland 13. Heck of a game. I was sore watching it.
Saw calling it. What a real privilege calling it for SENZ alongside the great Christian Cullen. Not need to name drop anytime. Yeah, Kelly, don't you?
It's not the first time he's been dropped on this pod.
Oh, mate, Kelly. In awe of that bloke as a player. What a player. He'd go right in modern day footy, or in any era, let's be frank.
Yep.
But he just, his eyes sort of just grew wider and wider when he was talking about the intensity and the physicality of that game. It was, next level. France, New Zealand was played at a pretty good pace and intense, but it was ferocious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spitting. That's how much I loved it. It was ferocious, that game. And I look, and I'm going to get this backwards, but getting over the gain line so important in this game. The rates across the two sides were 50% and 40%. So they tried to use the ball and just could not get over the front foot because of two brilliant, belligerent, technically slightly different defensive lines. But you look at Ireland, I think Ireland's going to be so pleased with that. For 25 minutes, they looked like they'd never thrown a line out in their life. They had a few scrum penalties to deal with. Dominant tackles made by South Africa, I think, far outstripped any other game we'd seen. And yet Ireland walk away with the win. That's going to make them, feel as tall as Achim Snyman.
Talk about confidence earlier.
It is a huge result for Ireland. But South Africa aren't going to overreact.
No.
They're like, that's fine. We know we could have had it at the end if we just execute one play that we're generally really, really good at. So those two sides have set the bar as far as intensity and are going to take a heck of a lot of beating.
The goal kicking for South Africa, I guess, is a point. But they bring in a Andre Pollard.
He goes all right.
To replace a hooker. So I'm guessing they brought Pollard in just in case they want to try a different game plan, or just have that sort of the safety of a 80% plus goal kicker in their team. I don't think they're going to change anytime soon from the bomb squad. That's their bread and butter.
They're not going to roll 7-1 again, though, are they? They'll drop one of.
Yeah, I think it'll be 6-2.
And I think Pollard at worst is on the bench.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I like the Bock as a player, I really do. If he could kick goals, that would end the discussion. I just don't see any risk. The risk-reward element. I don't see the rewards being high enough to take that risk with 7 on the bench. We saw it work really well against the very off-colour All Blacks at Twickenham. But Ireland had Andrew Porter play 75 minutes, the loose head prop. They went with the traditional boring old 5-3 split. and I don't think South Africa got any sort of significant gain in that. So I think they'll go back to 6-2.
I think they go 6-2 because Sia Khaleesi can stay on the field for 80 if they need him to, along with Dutoy. So there's your two forwards that play the whole 80, and then they replace the front row and the locks, and maybe the number 8 if they want to. But Khaleesi, who I've been very, very impressed with, both on and off the field. This has so many parallels for me with the All Blacks and Richie McCaw and 2011, 2015. He just comes across as a leader that whole South African team will follow anywhere he goes. So.
Yeah, I just love his relaxed nature coming out of the tunnel, leaning back, singing to himself. He just seems in his own words. He seems so sure of what him and his team are doing, and he can play more than 60.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're just managing his minutes just so that they can go, once we get to the quarterfinals, we just go 80 minutes, 80 minutes, 80 minutes.
Yeah, we keep forgetting because this is just a sign of how brilliant his comeback has been, how significant that knee injury was.
I was just going to say, not enough being made about 4 months turnaround from an ACL. Next one, Scotland 45, Tonga 17. I think Scotland did what they needed to do. They're going to need a pretty big upset and some unlikely results to go their way to have any chance of progressing.
Yeah, I don't know where to look at this. Is it a positive for Scotland or a negative towards Tonga? That opening try from Scotland, a rolling maul from 20-odd metres out. Scotland are the kings of side to side in modern day rugby. They like to use the width of the field. So that must have been so dispiriting for Tonga. But then Charles Piutau, what a wonderful offload to Solomon Nakata to score the try. But from then on, it wasn't much.
No.
From Tonga, who've now conceded 100 points in their opening 2 games, more than that. Again, I give them a big pass because they don't have a whole heap of time together. We know it's an extraordinary sporting nation. Population of now I'm going to expose myself. I think not much over 100,000. You know, we know how amazing they are in rugby league. I just think I don't know, Paul, how down on them I should be. I think there's a lot of mitigating factors, but I think the players on the park as a group should be better than what we've seen.
Yeah, I guess, and not just because they're Pacific neighbours. I think they're very similar to Samoa as well, whereas they need to have more time together as a team. They need more international exposure. They need a team in some sort of domestic competition somewhere, and then we'll see their I guess skill level start to rise.
Yeah.
As you say, there's still a lot of very, very good players here, ex-All Blacks. So we probably expected a wee bit more from them. But to be fair to Scotland, they've been very, very good in the Six Nations. If they were in any other group, apart from A or B, you'd say Scotland are a big chance here of going through to the quarterfinals. They just got stuck in the group with Ireland and South Africa, unfortunately for the Scots.
Last team to beat France in Paris, Paul?
There we go.
Scotland. Okay, my last name's McHardy.
Wales 40, Australia 6.
Oh boy.
Wow. So I get a seat? What do you?
What this is,
Yours, please.
well, this is rock bottom for Australia.
Yeah.
This is it. They can.
Is it?
Well,
Let's wait till the tournament's over.
They play
Wait till
Portugal
the
this
tournament's over.
We'll play Portugal this week. We'll see.
Yeah. I don't understand what the administration were doing when they decided to grab Eddie Jones at the last minute for the World Cup. I thought Dave Rennie was doing a pretty good job with the Wallabies and had built up a good team culture there. Boy, oh boy, he had a whole heap of injuries.
Oh, yeah.
When he was in charge of the Wallabies. I don't think he was ever able to put his top 15 out on the field at once. So I thought they were heading in the right direction. And then they bring Eddie Jones in. He makes wholesale changes. He leaves a whole heap of experienced players at home. And this is what they get. We really shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I did pick it. I did say they wouldn't get out of their pool.
Did you?
It's recorded. It's on the podcast.
Fantastic. Is this the bit where you edit and now play?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
We'll see.
McHardy knows all the tricks.
Yeah, you would have had, like Alison Holst, have it prepared ready to go, right? You're so right about Dave Rennie. Now, the one thing I would have been concerned about if I was Australia, and I think this can be tracked back to his Chiefs days, injuries tend to have followed his teams. So maybe you actually go, can we ever think about this? Can we ever think about this rather than going, you can't coach anymore? Because it was kind of a ridiculous perspective to have. I think all of us who've watched enough rugby realise Dave Rennie's a fine coach. And credit Dave for taking the high road and not saying a word, really, since he's been turfed. And I'm sure he's turned down millions of interviews.
Wait for the book to come out.
Yeah, the book will be a page turner for sure. But you look back at that tour, they lost to France in Paris, virtually the same French side that played the All Blacks, minus 1 or 2 here or there, in the opening game of Rugby World Cup. So France have continuity. In that test at Paris, where they lost by 1 point, I'll reiterate, they had 4 players starting the game against Wales. 4 out of 15. Completely different backline. 4 in the forward pack. There's no continuity there. I don't know what he was thinking. I think too many changes have been made. Assistant coaches in that, with coaches pulling out on the eve of the tournament. Assistant coaches have always been a problem, it seems, for Eddie Jones over the years. So, yeah, really disappointed. I actually felt sorry for the Wallabies. I really did, because I know how hard a sporting market that is for them at the moment. I know how much our lovely Australian mates like winners and don't like losers. This is a team who, remember, on the eve of the tournament, not just the story of him going and apparently having a chat to Japan, but there were stories about Australia can't even sell private equity in Australian rugby, that they're going to have to take on $80 million worth of debt. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. And I wonder if they had their time over again, they would have just taken a deep breath after that loss to Italy, which I think was the death knell. Was the death knell for the Rens, that they go against it. But everything's gone against them in this tournament. They could not afford to lose Paul. He's just so important to them. And the drop off to the next tidy prop, huge. They lost him. Well, Skelton goes down.
Another big loss.
Yeah, so Luck also wasn't on their side, and it's just exacerbated matters. And it really is just a huge, blazing dumpster fire at the moment, isn't it?
It's well put.
Yeah.
Well put. This morning, Uruguay 36, Namibia 26. 26 straight losses for Namibia at the Rugby World Cup. We're not going to touch on that game. We'll just move on because we are chewing time. I'm going to
shout out to Uruguay.
shout out to Uruguay. They came back. Namibia were
Chucking around too.
were all over them there at one point.
Very good.
I love you, Uruguay.
Luckily, Carl's not like the World Cup referees. You've got to watch. You're taking time. You're making sure that we're all.
Actually, after we brought that up the other week, I looked. The next game I watched, the ref had a watch on, so it may have been. Did you hear that?
Not a gold one from Louis Lake.
Oh, here we go.
So Tudor weren't giving them watches because someone sold one at the previous World Cup and it wasn't allowed, and there was all sorts of drama. But anyway, we're going to come back to game previews in a second. We're going to do start one, bench one, cut one. Have a little bit of fun. Right, these guys all played in the same era, and they would have crossed paths many times. They all captained their countries from the back line. They all played more than 70 tests for their countries, and they all played in the centre position.
Which is where Daniel used to ply his trade. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know.
No, I was a
You played
very,
centre?
very slow station to station the first 5-8. Enjoyed kicking to the corners.
Sounds very much like me.
Even when we were hot on attack.
Sounds like me.
Exact 5 meters out.
Too much
Straight
running,
to the
you fellas, too much running. Go to the line out. We're more on the line out all day, but I don't care.
Right, our players, Tana Umaga, Sterling Mortlock, and Brian O'Driscoll. Daniel, please start one, bench one, cut one.
Well, I'm a Wellingtonian, right? I'll never be allowed
Exactly.
back at
This
Sky
is an easy
Stadium.
one.
This is an easy one.
It
I'm
is.
starting Tana. Where would you like me to start him? On the wing, centre? What a player. Great player. A lot of love for Sterling Mortlock. I know he broke our heart for that intercept, of course, in a World Cup semi-final, which are the worst games to lose. I really rated him as a player. But I also, too, really, that's tough. You know, Brian O'Driscoll, most caps for Ireland.
Yep.
Absolute superstar of a player. But very, very tight. I'll start Tana. And I'll put Brian O'Driscoll on the bench because having Tana and Brian O'Driscoll on the same team would be funny. So, Sterling, I'm cutting you.
Wow, okay. Paul?
They would have played against one another. The Lions tour over here. Well, O'Driscoll only played not too many minutes.
Wow.
You're having a laugh, aren't
You're
you?
having a laugh, right?
Right, I'm starting.
Shout out Brian
Yeah.
O'Driscoll.
Yeah. Hence why he's on the bench.
I'm
And Kevin Mialamu, I'm going to have to crowbar into the background somehow.
I'm starting Tana because I'm a Wellingtonian.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got Tana on the bench as well, and I'm cutting the other two.
What?
That's not the game.
Well, I've just made it the game.
Tana the winger.
Tana
Tana
is
played fullback for Wellington.
Correct.
Put him down well.
Did you remember we had this question last? Was it last week? Jonah Lomu Rugby. Which player would you start? I'd
Yes.
start Tana
In every
position.
You could have said that last week.
But I stuck with Artie.
At the risk of sounding unpatriotic, I'm going to start Sterling Mortlock.
Yeah, some player.
Scored a lot of points.
Mm.
Scored over 1,000 points for the Brumbies. And a lot of points for Australia too. And I'm going to bench Tana because of that centre wing, his ability to play in other positions. Sorry, Brian. Tough scenes.
Well, he knows he's always going to be on the wrong end of things in New Zealand.
Yes,
Doesn't
especially the way the Irish are going at the moment.
Yeah.
All right,
touch wood.
let's go back and preview some games. First game, Japan v Samoa. Samoa is $1.62 favourites. Japan $2.35, 3.5 point underdogs. Samoans have won 11 of 16 between these two. Japan, though, have won 3 of the last 4. The last time they met was earlier this year, 24-22 Samoa. Paul, any big betting on this game?
No significant big bets. However, in that match result market where the Samoans are slight favourites, they're $1.62. The Japanese are $2.35. The draw's at $18. I can tell you, we've taken 54% of turnovers on the Samoans, with the rest on Japan. Well, there's like less than 1% on the draw, obviously, but it's fairly even. And it's sort of where you would expect it to be, given the odds that the bookies have put out. So at the moment, there is some very good turnover. No, not a lot of large turnover, but a lot of punters getting in there and get stuck in. So yeah, a slight leaning towards Samoa at $1.62. But the Japanese aren't without their supporters.
So it's a lot of people with the fingers in the pie that is not deep into the pie. There's no real conviction. I think the market's being really smart there. I'm not convinced either way. I've taught myself around this game. You pointed out Samoa used to dominate this fixture for years and years. It's been more Japan in recent times. But that result at Sapporo Dome was really promising in July for Samoa, going down by just 2 points, and probably showed, for Paul's point, that Japan might have taken a step back, but you could not get more contrasting styles in this contest. How's this for nerd preparation? Samoa are quite limited. I mentioned this earlier as far as the way they want to play the game. They don't spread the ball wide. They keep it tight. Japan, on the other hand, polar opposite. So Samoa, 20% of the time when they're in possession, keep the ball within 2 meters of the previous breakdown. So that is one off, pick and goes, keeping it real tight. In comparison, Japan are spreading the ball 50% of the time, at least 10 meters from the previous breakdown. So 10 to 20 meters. So they're using the width of the field. Samoa are keeping it much closer. You know, contrasting styles. There's many ways to win games of rugby. I've talked a long time, and I'm not going to tell you who I think is going to win because I don't think I know. I legitimately think this is a toss of a coin game.
Paul and I were having a quick chat on this earlier. Pool D, there are some sort of ramifications in this. Whoever comes out on top here, either Japan or Samoa will slot into that second spot. And I can see Japan winning this, and not convinced with Argentina yet. And I wouldn't be, not saying Japan will beat Argentina, but I'm saying they could beat Argentina and
it's
qualify.
It is a tough call to pick.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Japanese loose forward trio. I absolutely love those three. How hardworking are they? Leach, Labuschagne, if you're an Australian, Himino, they made 52 tackles combined in their last game. Like 1/3 of their team's tackles. Individually, 17, 19, and 16. Those three numbers would generally have you as the top tackler in any game of rugby. I love their work rate and their ethic.
I never made that many tackles in my whole rugby career.
That's why you're so pretty.
All right, next one. New Zealand v Italy. New Zealand are 31.5-point favourites.
That's only just moved today. They were 30. They were 30.5 this morning.
The team was named this morning. Paul and I,
and we've got a bone to pick with SENZ.
We do actually. Paul and I came to work this morning, and we said, "Oh wow, how about the team? We've got the team we've all been asking for. Will Jordan at 15, Lester Whainganuku's on the wing, Bodie's on the bench, blah blah blah." And then everyone in the office is looking at us like, "What the hell are you two talking about?" And we go to the All Blacks page and we see the team, and it's not what we thought it was. And everyone's saying, You're wrong. You're delusional. I'm like, who of us can't be delusional? Anyway, we found SENZ yesterday posted an image with the caption, "Is this the best World Cup 23 possible?"
Which you clearly agree with.
That was the first thing.
I clearly agree with the great minds at SENZ.
That was the first thing we both saw this morning when we woke up and assumed that was the team.
I think our social media team has done an excellent
Huge.
So well done, Logan. I'm with you, fellas. Will Jordan's played one test at fullback, started the test, and in that back line was Braden Enor, Stevenson. They've never really given it a fair crack. It's too late to do it now in some ways. I still like Whainganuku on the right, Talia on the left, Talia on the right, and Will Jordan at 15. That's the one I probably would have rolled out with. But Ian Foster has, stuck by Beauden Barrett and sticking by Beauden Barrett.
He's not going to change now.
He's not going to change.
No.
I think Barrett's been quite loyal to him in the past. I think we all know that. And he's returning the favour maybe. I am interested by Damien McKenzie on the bench. I didn't think you could have a 23 with McKenzie, Barrett and Mo'unga. Be interesting to see how that plays out. But the big bodies are the key. Frizzell's back. He looked in great form prior to, the injury. He hasn't played since the first Australian test, wasn't it? In late July, he looked like he was finally realising his potential. He's got all the physical attributes for it. He's back. Tyrell Lomax. I don't know about you guys. I think he is looming as one of the most important players in this team. Probably doesn't get as much, love out there. Why? Because I'm a bit concerned about the propping stocks, about an ability to do it both at set piece and around the park. It seems we've got players at one or the other. I think Tyrell Lomax does both, and it's really encouraging to see him back. It's not in vogue to back the All Blacks captain, but I think they missed Stan Kane's defensive intensity against France as well. So it's really good news that the medical team are getting them back on track, because I think they need as close to that strongest 23 if they are to beat a South Africa, a France or an Ireland.
It'll be interesting to see how much time Sam Cane gets on the field. Obviously, they're going to work him in slowly, and hopefully everyone gets through the game. And we can move on to the next one and really start to build for the big games of this tournament, the quarters and the semis and the finals. So, I'd love to see Jordan at fullback, but it's not going to happen.
No, you're right. I think with Mackenzie on the bench, it says, Bodie, you're the 15, just be a 15. I think in the last game you saw him come in, he was playing first receiver quite a lot in that first half. Just do your job at the back. Mackenzie, Moanga, first 5, they'll run the cutter.
Geordie back as well. Good to see him there.
Yeah,
yes, I'm excited to see Shannon Frizzell. Love him. Next one, Fiji v Georgia. Fiji just need 5 points from their remaining 2 games to secure a quarterfinal berth. They are 16.5-point favourites against Georgia. Easy win?
No,
Ooh, okay.
Not an easy one. And I think I'm being coloured by Fiji losing to Uruguay in the first game of the 2019 World Cup, because I just want Fiji to do well. They won me over as an 8-year-old in 1987. The way they played the game, the skills, Severo Corundua running the ball one hand in the quarterfinal against France. I so want them to progress. Yeah, I think I am probably being too coloured by that performance that they have in them, if you know what I mean. But I think, to Paul's points earlier about how they've developed with Super Rugby, I probably should give them a little bit more credit. They look like they can do every aspect of the game. Set pieces there. They spoke to Daryl Gibson about this. Discipline has always been an issue for Fiji. They seemingly have tightened that up. There are still sporadic moments where they do get pinged a bit. And I think I'm a bit higher on Georgia than maybe I should be. So that's why I fear for them. But, the rugby romantic, as much as I love Georgia, I just want Fiji to get through. I think they're great for the sport.
Money suggests Fiji win by a landslide. 98% of the turnover in the match result market is on the Fijians. They're currently $1.11 there. The Georgians are 6. The draw's at $26. In the point start market, where they're 16.5-point favourites, we haven't taken a single cent on Georgia plus.
Wow.
So
you will in about 5 minutes.
There'll be enough to move the market.
Don't say you've been warned.
What about Paul, Australia v Portugal? Australia, 24.5-point favourites.
Is that all?
At one time in the world, they would have been 80.5-point favourites. It really does sort of paint the picture there. But where's the money going? I'm going to guess and say money coming for Portugal, because New Zealand punters are a little bit cynical like that.
Okay, so it's early days in terms of punting wise for this match. So there's not a lot of action at the moment. There is more money on Portugal in the match result market at $12 than on the Wallabies at $1.02. But in the point start market, it's almost one-way traffic. Australia minus 24.5. But early days is not a lot of turnover going on in that match at the moment. What with the focus on the All Blacks first of all, and a couple of the other matches, obviously, Japan, Samoa.
Surely not. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Portugal
are not beating Australia. I'm sorry. There must be a response. There will be kind of a response, but you know what? It will get panned as too little, too late.
Yep. Last one we're going to look at, South Africa v Tonga. I haven't got the odds here, but I can't imagine it's
the Tongans are
very
$36 in the match result market. The South Africans are $1.001.
No value there, punters.
So, you're going to have to put a few dollars down if you want to make a significant profit. The draw's at $61. In the point start option, the South Africans minus 41.5 at the moment, and that's where pretty much all of the action's been. South Africans minus 41.5. But
That seems like not enough.
once again, the South Africans aren't like France, but they could put out a side that just a second string side, which I think would be stronger than the French
Much
second
more
string
depth,
side, with a bit more depth. But this is South Africa. Let's get the win.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I'm just hoping for a bit of performance. That doesn't help you guys in your market, but I'm just interested to see Tonga show, a little bit more of what I think they're capable of. Defensively, they've got to tidy things up. I'll reiterate, over 100 points conceded, 59 to Ireland, 45 to Scotland. That's got to get better. They've won just one of their last 8 World Cup matches. Hasn't been a great era for them. While South Africa are just the masters on defence. What have they conceded? Is it 16 points at this tournament? Or
We had a question. We had a
Like,
question last
seriously.
week.
I don't care who you're playing. You
Mhm.
concede 3 points in your opening 2 games, and then 13 against a very good Irish side. Man alive. So
We had a question last week, and I'll ask you. I'll adjust the line accordingly. But it was, will South Africa concede over or under 5.5 tries through the whole tournament?
they conceded 1.
They conceded 1 to Ireland last week, so you've got 4.5 left for the rest of the tournament.
That is a really good question, isn't it? That is a really good question. I think it would depend on who they play. I think I can see them conceding a couple to the All Blacks,
Yes.
but I can see the All Blacks, having an intercept, which is obligatory when you play South Africa, it seems, in one of these big games. Not diffusing a high kick or them smashing their way forward from a line. But yeah, it's a pretty good shout. Good luck. Good luck trying to crack that South African safe.
All right. Well, we're going to skip over Controversy Corner this week, and we're going to go straight to betting. Quick recap of last week. Steve Vine had about
5 or 6
100 leg
league
multi on.
Yeah, he did.
That included some NPC rugby, and he texted me and discussed the
Was it Auckland that?
Georgia-Portugal draw was the one that tipped him up, he reckons.
Oh,
So he had 100 on, and it was about $5 or $6. He would have gone straight to the top of the leaderboard.
it depends on whether he took the head-to-head option or the match result. If he took the match result, he's a goner because the draw's included. But if he took the head-to-head, then it would go through, but it'd halve his divvies.
I feel like he had the minus.
Oh, did he have the
I
minus?
think so, yeah.
Right, he's gone.
Regardless,
He's gone. He was looking good at 13-0 up.
He did.
Unfortunately.
I got my money back. I had either team by 7.5 or less in the South Africa-Ireland game. I had 50 on that at $2 to get my 100 back. I also had Scotland 11-20. They won by 28. And I had a multi that had Samoa plus 16.5
Against Argentina.
Yep.
Right.
Into either team by 7 or less in the Wales-Australia game, which did not happen. Australia didn't even score 7 points. Paul, how did you go?
Rubbish. I took a couple of power plays in the French game. I took, I think it was Dupont or the flanker to score a hat-trick. And then I had Dupont to score the first, second, or third try, and France to win by 71-80, I think. I'm throwing darts to try and just come right over the top of everyone. So, and
It's not going to be hard. I think we're all in the negative. We're all in the minus at the moment. It's not good for a tipping podcast. So hopefully our guests today can help us out here and find some winners. We get $100
Yep.
hypothetical cash
Hypothetical money.
to bet on whatever you like. Paul, we'll start with you down the end. What are you going with for your $100 this
I'm
week?
going to make it real simple, real easy. We've talked about a couple of Wellington players today, Tana Umanga, Tyson Lomax, Tyrell Lomax, sorry. I'm going with another Wellington player, Artie Severe, to score a try against Italy. It's paying 250. I'm putting my whole hundy on there. Bang.
Oh.
Easy peasy.
Whoa.
Chips in.
I got something similar. Last try score, I got Dane Cole scrapping it. Like, I don't know how much I want to put on him. I want to do an emotional hedge, but you shouldn't do that at home, right? I so want Fiji to go through. I'm thinking of chucking money on Georgia, but no, I don't think I will on that front. I'm going to finally stick my neck on the line, though. I flip-flopped long enough, Japan up against Samoa. I'm going to tip Samoa 1-12.
Samoa
Yeah.
1-12.
No, I'm not. I'm going to tip Japan. There you go. I'm tipping Japan.
To win or?
Japan to win 1-12. I did misspeak there, not
Japan.
just flip-flop for another time.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah. So,
Japan 1-12, $3.40.
there you go.
1-12 or to win?
1-12.
Okay.
1-12.
Yeah, 1-12.
Nice.
All 100 on that?
No, not all 100
No.
on that. I've got to throw $10 on Dane Coles, right? So $10 on Dane
So
Coles.
10 on Coles.
We'll slap 80 on that Japan Samoa. Plus,
80.
I'll be put out of my misery because it's the next game, isn't it? It's the next game of the
Japan
tournament.
1-12 at 340.
Yeah.
$10 on Coles to be the last try scorer.
Yeah. And is there a punt on Tonga scoring a try against South Africa? You got me thinking now about that 5.5.
There will be.
Yeah.
Hang on.
So Tonga to grab the burglar try against South Africa.
Who is the away team?
We'll slap $10 on
Tonga.
that too.
Tonga is the away team.
Away tries.
As you can tell, I've done
total.
my research.
Yep. Oh,
Oh, I got
over
it.
1.5.
Over or under 1.5?
Tonga. Can they score
under.
2?
Under.
No, I don't. I'll get them one.
$1.50.
$1.52.
$1.52.
And what's over 1.5?
Over 1.5,
235.
235.
Not a
I'll
chance.
Stick, no, I'll stack.
If
I'll
Ireland
stick
can't
to
score
one.
2, there's no way Tonga can score 2.
Yeah, I'll go Tonga to score 1 try against them.
Nice.
Come on, Colesy. Never talk to you again.
What about their points? Under or over 10.5 points for Tonga? Do you like that? 10.5.
Now you're asking me.
Paul's
to do
gone back
maths.
into bookie mode.
Yeah.
He's trying to sell you the
5
next
plus
bet.
2 and NLD. I reckon they'll get 8 points.
Under 10.5 is $1.77.
Right.
Bring us home, mate.
I got 5 bets.
Holy
No,
moly.
sorry, 4 bets. 4 bets. First one, a 1, 2, 3, 4-leg multi, $20 on. Japan v Samoa. I'm going under 50.5 points. And I've even got some reasoning to back this up. Just to make me sound. Oh no. It's
Well,
gone.
you just talk about the Japanese loose forward trio. They tackle everything that moves.
Gee,
And
and
it's going to be hard to get past them,
they're going to have to
The-
do that
yeah.
again against the Samoans.
who,
Uh,
as we've discussed, come quite narrow.
Samoa haven't conceded more than 19 points in their last 4 matches, and the total hasn't tipped 50. Has only tipped 50 in 2 of Samoa's last 8.
Right.
Here we go. So under 50.5 in that. I've got Argentina minus 50.5 versus Chile. Over 7.5 tries in the New Zealand-Italy game. I can see Italy getting 1 or 2. And I think New Zealand will run up a score here.
Well, they literally chuck the ball around, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, we haven't talked much about what they're going to bring to the party, but Kieran Crowley wants them to play an expensive brand of footy. They've got some really nice players too. Some world-class talent who play in some big clubs in Europe. So it wouldn't shock me if they snatched a couple.
Grab a couple. So over 7.5 tries there, and then Fiji 13 plus. So $20 on that at $10.47 for those 4 legs. And if I miss by 1, I get a bonus bet back with oval ball multi-buster.
Wow.
Then I've got $20 on a power play in the Japan Samoa game. Either team to win by 1-7 and between 46 and 55 total points. That's paying $8. Tight game. But loving the last game, 24-22. You go, 46 points. Bang, winner. And then the last 2, I've got 30 each on Will Jordan to score 2 or more tries at $3. And Shannon Frizzell, anytime try scorer at $3. As I said, AB's in for a big game, in my opinion.
How big?
I think they'll cover the 31.5 easy. I think they're going to win by 40 or 50. Statement game.
So Kempy won't have to shave his head. We know what Daniel's going to do if Italy win.
Eat his
Kempy's
hat.
going to shave his head.
I'm not committing to anything.
What?
Well, what do you want me to commit to? I already got a tattoo for the Warriors for TAB.
Well, you get an Italian flag tattooed next.
No, that's not happening.
What?
That's not happening. I've got the silver fern as well. I can't do that. Anyway, that's us. Gents, Daniel, thank you very much
My
for joining
pleasure.
us.
Absolute
this week.
treat being with you, fellas. And
Yeah.
enjoy the rest of the tournament.
Good
Yes.
fun. Paul, thank you. Good luck down there this week punting.
I almost feel like it's a crouch, touch, and go. I just feel like that we should.
I don't even want
Anyway.
to see that again. To all you out there, thank you very much for listening. And we will be back next week to do it all again on Pick and Go podcast.